A study says the NHS should perform 10 times as many gastric band surgeries as it does now to tackle the UK's obesity crisis. That's 1,000 surgeries a week, over 50,000 a year. This is absolutely crazy. I can't believe we're actually recommending that people go under the knife with all of its risks. The answer to me is obvious. It should be about prevention rather than cure. We need to change the law to force children to do more exercise. I'm amazed that there's no national minimum time that schools are required to give PE. The school day shouldn't just be about learning English with Professor Dyke or chemistry with Dr. Sarpong. The school timetable should look like this. PE every day, 45 minutes of it at the very least. That's 4 hours a week. It's not complicated, it's common sense, and it's the answer to our obesity crisis.
Well, yes, to an extent. But I do remember, and when I went to school a long time ago, you did do an awful lot of PE. It was compulsory. And I always remember for the kids like you, who were, very sporty, it was great. For the ones who weren't, it was pretty miserable. The number of people I used to see, who would slide off, who went on the run and hid behind the tree, the people who, even if they tried, couldn't achieve it. So if you're going to do it, you've got to do it in a way that is inclusive of everybody, and not that you turn some people into stars and others are just completely ignored.
Absolutely agree. You've got to define what physical education is within school. And at primary school, it's got to be an experience that children have that is positive. So it's not about creating elite athletes from a school PE system, although obviously that has to be factored in terms of children that are very good at sport, but actually getting out and doing stuff, whether it's going for a walk for 45 minutes or a small jog or getting to know your environment a bit. There should be something.
You two are being so goody two-shoes about this. Your point was brilliant, so you started getting on board with his inclusive sport. Right? Michelle, I know you feel very strongly that everyone should get medals still and we don't need to water down from the previous episode of the Pledge. Yes, it needs to be in there because you need to have the habit. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
It needs to be habit-forming.
Yes.
And yes, you don't want people quaking behind a street, sort of tree with an egg and spoon going, I don't want to go down there. But you do need them to move. And if you're going to move, the only thing that's going to get you going is fear of God or competition. And in your day, and I'm sorry, I do think it's changed, there wasn't fried chicken on every single corner of British high streets. There were shops.
I agree.
There weren't computer games.
I agree, but the idea that exercise at school is going to change all this. It's
it
one
will.
part of a whole programme. I mean, look at the number. Come on, how many footballers of your generation do you see now? Now, they did exercise every day of their lives. They're incredibly trained. And you look at them in their 40s and 50s, and some of them are pretty large.
Yeah, some of them are. And again, I think that goes to Emma's point that there's lifestyle choices you have to make alongside it. So there's not one single solution to sport. But unless you embed it in children at a young age, it's a habit they're never going to form. Yeah. They're never going to get it. Yeah. And I think that we undervalue sport, and we have done for generations. Most primary schools, or a lot of primary schools, don't even have a dedicated PE teacher. No. It's it's a teacher putting themselves out to do something for the sake of it. 2 hours is a required standard, but it's not enforced. And this is the only opportunity a lot of these children are going to get to actually exercise. So I think it's absolutely fundamental to someone's education and upbringing to have some sport in school that's
it's as important as maths and English and all of the other subjects that we put such an emphasis on. I think at the end of the day,
as long as you can involve everybody.
But why can't you?
Well, I
don't understand why you can't.
agree with you, Graeme. I think that it starts with education. It starts with fitness at school, but it also starts in the home as well. Educating the parents to get rid of all the sugar, sweets and bad fatty foods and everything. And I agree with the sugar tax. Because, being fit does help you.
Mentally
as well. I mean, I've lost, I know it's not about me and this is about a children debate.
You sure?
But I've lost 8.5 stone and it's completely changed my business outlook.
8.5 stone?
Yeah.
You look amazing.
That's a whole person.
Yeah. And I run every day, I go to the gym every day. Well, I broke my foot recently and I had to calm down a little bit. But I do agree that it makes you a completely different person. It makes you positive. We've got to get rid of the negativity in the country and make people more positive, make people healthy, make people fit.
Do you think
and
it's
it
the
starts
role
off
of
in
government
schools.
to do
It is.
it?
I do.
It
I
is.
absolutely
It
do.
I happen to
absolutely
believe it is. But,
Greg.
but that does
absolutely
mean
do.
you maybe stop having the fried chicken shop on every corner. Maybe
No,
you
but
don't
that's
have
a-
McDonald's
but that's
in
a
large
different
numbers.
argument. That's a different argument.
It's all going to be part of it.
Yeah,
if
there's
you're
a
going to
few.
stop it happening.
It's one of the hardest things to solve because it's about people's freedom, right? We want to give the people freedom, then they go and earn the money, and they should spend it however they want. However, if all they can see around them is, that cheap food. Listen, I was really into sport at school. I was all right. I wasn't amazing. I was on the netball B team, okay, and I was a very good goal defender. And I used to go every Saturday, and then I'd play tennis in the summer or whatever it was that we switched to. And then I got to university, and I stopped. Just started drinking, eating whatever. Definitely put on maybe 2 stone. And then when I went off to do to more qualifications to become a journalist, I had to walk everywhere there. So I actually lost loads of weight naturally. But my point was, even for me, who was into sport, it wasn't habit forming. And it's the first time ever I've thought about the fact that it's called physical education.
Yes.
I mean, yes, I got taught how to play netball,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was put into my head by anybody that this is a programme for life. And I think that is what's missing.
Absolutely, and you have an
to make-
opportunity. Sorry, you have an opportunity when somebody is young to get them engaged in something that
Which will become second nature.
because they've got time at that.
Yeah.
When you go to university, when you go to work, your time for you and your time for sport and activity is going to be
Becomes
under
less.
so much more
Yeah.
pressure.
Not at university, God.
But I think
You've
we're
got all
all-
the time
I
in
think
the
we're
world.
all
most
traded.
people. Yes. I mean,
At the time in the pub.
We're all missing a very, very big point here, is that when we were all young at school, wasn't that long for me, it was a long time for you. We were all involved in sports and we were going out at night and playing rounders and playing, all these different
We didn't have
sports in the
video
streets.
games.
We didn't have video games. We weren't
I
on
did.
social media all the time. We weren't taking selfies and everything. And I think we have changed where we're not as active as we
We didn't have
kids
the
were.
internet.
And we're
as
under,
such.
well,
So you
but
have
also
to
we're under a lot more food
change.
strain as well
Yes.
because of
It's
the
easier.
unhealthy lifestyle. So the gastric ban quote that I gave you in my introduction, I mean, that's about the current obesity crisis.
So you wouldn't give people gastric bans?
Well, I'm not saying I wouldn't, but on the scale that we're talking about here, 50,000 a year. I mean, operations come with complications, with great costs. So, of course, there are people that are so unfit and have such health issues due to their size that actually getting them to sort of start some sort of sport is going to be very difficult. But, as
And-
Michelle said, she lost 8 stone because she...
8.5.
8.5 stone, sorry.
Don't miss that half.
That was the hardest bit to lose. That's
Yeah, it was
last
the
half,
hardest
so- But the fact is that you need a trigger to motivate you to doing something. You need a target. You need to be familiar with
What about
something.
with you?
sport.
Why did you not the football side of it, but why did you first get into physical?
Because I was very lucky. I had good sport at school. Really important. The amount of sport
your
I played
parents
at school.
sporty?
My parents lived a very outdoor life. I grew up in Jersey, so I had outdoor space. So everything for me revolved around the outdoors. And again, our environment is under pressure. School sports fields have been sold off for the last
houses and
30
flats.
years.
We know that, yeah.
So there's so much pressure on us, and this is why I think it is important government get involved and fund it properly,
It
so that we
starts
actually
off with
have.
education, and that's why NHS is bursting at the seams. And if we don't start with education in the schools, then we will never be solving the issues.